free since he can't do anything anyway.
Yep. So he's got to come up with some money somehow. What can he do? What can he do? Well. What can Trump do to raise money to pay off all these debts he has? Let's see. He does have a SPAC. For those of you guys who don't know, a SPAC is a special acquisitions company, corporation, something like that. Anyway, the way it works is this, is I create, let's say Lacey owns a company, and they make widgets. I create an investment shell company and put it on the market, on the stock market, and basically say, okay, investors, give me your money. I'm going to either merge or acquire a widget company, right, or something like that. And so investors will give the money, speculating. They're basically betting on me being able to pull off a deal, is what it is. And then I'll go and say, okay, Lacey's company, Lacey, hey, I want to either buy out your company or merge with your company. And then your company would go public on the market. So it'd be good for you, it'd be good for me. All right. Investors tend to lose money on these, but sometimes they do really well. So that's what's happened here. Is there's a company called DWAC. It's a shell company. It's a SPAC. That's all they did was they put out the stock. They don't do anything. And they wanted to merge with a social media company. And they bought out, or they're merging, with Truth Social. They started this back in like 2021. Usually these things only last 2 years. And they tried to merge. There was a bunch of filings, corruption, lawsuits. The SEC had a ton of investigations in them for insider trading, fraud, embezzlement, all kinds of shit. It was bad. Finally, they got through all that. The SEC approved it recently, that this could go through. So they're going to vote here in March 22nd, I think is the date. And the vote's going to be whether or not we go through with the SPAC. However, the two guys who are Trump's partners, who were both on The Apprentice too, which I think is hilarious, that he fired on The Apprentice. They didn't even make it to the end. Those are the two guys that built Truth Social. They got 8% of Truth Social, like 8.6. Well, what happened was initially, because Truth Social, Trump estimates it's worth $5 to $25 million. I don't know what it's actually worth. It doesn't really make any money. There's only like 6 million subscribers. There can't be that much advertising. So let's take him at his word and let's say it's worth 25. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's worth that. At 25 million, if we're issuing 1 million shares, that's $25 a share. So initially they were going to do something like that, like 1.2 million shares.
Mm-hmm.
But Trump and the DWAC people said, okay, well, now that we're going to do that, we want it to be more money and investors' money. So we're going to issue over 1 billion shares. And Trump's like, and Trump's getting like 79 million of them, so he's getting like 8%. Right? Or whatever it is. Yeah, it's about 8%, so 7.9%. So this deal went through, and all the Trumpers jumped in and put money in, and the stock price shot up to like 50 at one point, and then it's come down. But that means if this thing passes and it goes public, Trump now has 79 million shares at whatever it is, 40 or 50 bucks a share. So it's got like $4 billion, 3 or 4 billion. Right? Here's the catch to a SPAC, though. Because what happens is now all of a sudden I have all this money, right? Lacey and I have all this money from our SPAC because our investors have given us all this money. Well, we're going to be tempted to just sell the stock right away and get our cash. Well, we have it in cash, right? So we're going to sell while it's up. And then typically what happens with IPOs is you sell, all the people that own it sell right away. The price goes down. And then we wait till the price drops and then we buy it all back at the lower price. So we just made a shit ton of money and still retained all of our stock. And because we did it quick enough, we did it within 30 days, it's a wash sale, so there's no tax on the gains for any of that shit. So kind of a fucking awesome deal. It's like free money, right? Well, with SPACs, they recognize this is a problem. So SPACs, you have to wait 6 months before you can sell your shares after they issue. So Trump can't get the money right away unless the shareholders vote to allow him to do that, which would be stupid because then it immediately devalues all their shares. Because then they lose money, right? The other thing he could do is he could take those shares and he could like gift them to somebody like Don Jr. or somebody and say, okay, Don Jr., I'm gifting these to you. And Don Jr. could then go get a loan against them and give him the money. But nobody's going to give him a loan while they're locked up. And furthermore, in 6 months, this could be worthless because it's all predicated on Truth Social, which isn't worth $1 billion. It's worth maybe 25 million at most. So now if you're a shareholder, every share is worth like what, a hundredth or a thousandth of a penny? I mean, it's fucking worthless, and you paid $50 for it per share.
I literally do not know one single person who uses or talks about Truth Social.
No. I mean, it's such a niche, but it's all dependent on these people are betting he's going to win the election and stuff. Well, if that's not the case, or things are looking bad by August or September, I mean, this stock could tank, and he doesn't get the billions. It ends up being nothing again.
Right.
But the other thing was, so he's got to worry about, so these two guys that initially started with him, when they moved it from 1.2 million to like $1 billion, they didn't include them in that. So their actual portion now is like a fraction of a percent. So they're suing. So now they can't vote until after this lawsuits get settled. So it delays this even further.
Oh my God.
On top of that, the CEO of DWAC, the guy who's running it, has basically said, fuck this, I want more money. Otherwise, I'm not going to vote for it. And if he doesn't vote for it, then it's not going to go through. So, I mean, this whole thing is a shit show. But they had to file all these other risk factors. So if you're an investor in this, you're getting screwed. If you're a Trump investor, there's no way this is going to make money. This is a meme stock. It's like GameStop. All these people put all this money in GameStop, right, to try and booster the company, but GameStop's not worth it. So at one point, GameStop's stock went up to whatever, over 100, right, a share, but GameStop's it's not even worth fucking $2 or $3 a share hardly. They don't make any money. They lose money. So plus you got to factor in all these other risks. But at least GameStop makes some money. It's hard to say what Truth Social actually makes and what all the risks are. So they had to do all the extra filings with the SEC recently, and Ben Meiselas covers this again. So these are called S4s, and he'll go through it and I'll explain it a little bit. But this is just fucking hilarious to me.
Take public, and then they file the S4, which is the merger document. This is the merger document, and here's what it says. A number of companies that were associated with Donald Trump have filed for bankruptcy. There can be no assurances that Trump Media Group will also not become bankrupt. Headline 1 right there. Buried. Headline's buried on page 132. Next. A number of companies that had license agreements with Donald Trump have failed. There can be no assurances that Trump Media will also not fail. So these are red flag, red flag, red flags.
So the risks are just exuberant, right? On top of the fact, we just talked about it, he has to pay all these, he has to pay the bonds or something to put a stay on the judgments for New York, for the E. Jean Carroll for 83.3 in New York for 460, whatever it is now. Well, E. Jean Carroll, if he doesn't pay that, they can start seizing assets. There's nothing that says they can't seize Trump Media Group, where he's the sole owner.
Oh, snap.
Or the state of New York can't. And if this goes through and he gets the stock, guess what? The stocks are assets. They could seize the stocks. And if they do get a hold, and they might do that, because if they get a hold of them, they can now immediately sell them. They don't have to sit on it for 6 months. So if you're an investor and they take $500 million, right, in stock and sell them, to satisfy the judgment, guess what? The stock price just plummeted, and you just got screwed. So this is basically, if you're an investor in this, you are gonna get fucked. There's no, unless like the stars align and Trump wins the election by a lot, and all of a sudden all of us decide to join Truth Social, and all the advertisers go there, and we all say, yeah, we like all the racist, sexist shit on Truth Social. We all of a sudden want to hear from Donald Trump every day. Yeah, if that magically happens, you'll probably make some money. If it doesn't, you're fucked.
You know what? Somebody should write that dystopia book.
Oh.
Maybe make it like a dystopian graphic novel or something, where like
Right.
half the universe happens or some craziness like that.
I think they
Oh, man.
I think they made a movie like that where the Nazis actually won World War II.
Oh man.
Anyway, so get this. So we're gonna take a quick look. So this is DWAC, Digital World Acquisition Corp. This is the SPAC.
God, that name kills me.
Yeah, well, it's a SPAC, so it's just a shell company. So this is the shell company that bought out Truth Social. And I just want to look at this real quick. So here it is when the Trumpers all jumped in when they found out about this, that it was going to get approved back at the end of February. So this is a couple days ago, right? Or this is a couple years ago. When they first announced the merger, it shot way up. And then when they hit all the legal troubles, so it was up to like, God, what was it? It was something ridiculous. It was like 90 something, almost $100 a share. And then when they hit the legal troubles, blam, $12 a share, $13 a share. So you just lost almost 90% of your money. Right? And
Yeah,
then
that's cool.
came back in, and it just recently shot up. Here, let's look at just the last. Kind of recently shot up, and then it's gone down. Recently shot up, gone down. Recently shot up, gone down. As all this news comes out, this thing is so volatile because nobody knows if it's gonna go through, if it's gonna plunder, if it's gonna, what's gonna happen. But what we do all know is the business we're buying is owned by a guy who's just been fined $355 million for fraud, can no longer do business in the state of New York. Fortunately, Trump Media Group's in Florida. But he can't get loans anymore. Hardly. Especially not in New York or any bank that banks in New York. So he's got to get it from some private something that doesn't bank in New York. And on top of that, we're talking about a guy who's been bankrupt, what, 6-7 times? A guy who's notorious for not paying his bills. A guy who's notorious for not paying his employees. A guy who's notorious for screwing everybody over. And you're investing in this hoping that it's going to work out at 1 billion shares. It dilutes the entire value.
That's a crazy risk to take because, I mean, I don't know about you, Duncan, but when I was taught to buy stocks, you look at the leadership, right? You look at the leadership, and I mean, there's a lot of things you look at, but one of the things is, who's leading the charge here and what's their story, right? To see if this is like somebody you want leading the charge.
Right.
And also debt is another thing that you want to be looking at, right?
Right.
I'm not investing in something that's got that kind of debt load. I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you're doing it like you're talking about fundamental analysis, yeah, you're looking at a couple things. What are the earning potential? What do you think the forward potential is going to be of the company? Do they have like new products or something interesting coming out? Because in this case, Truth Social's got nothing new coming out. It's all hinged on Trump being president again. And
right?
We'll see how likely that is. But there's that, and the fact is you got to sit there and read. Well, what are all the risks? And the main risk is it all hinges on one guy who's notorious for not paying his bills, for being a deadbeat.
And that one guy who's notorious for not paying his bills has just racked up a serious amount of debt, which you just went over extensively, some of the ways in which that can absolutely screw investors.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, really, just those factors alone would be a big fat no for me already.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole thing is you're just begging to get raked here financially. So there's that.